Have you ever witnessed a moment that changed everything? Bullies humiliated and took the leash of a black girl. What she did shocked everyone.
Derek Thompson's hand closed around the leather collar hanging around Jasmine's neck, pulling her back so hard she almost lost her balance. The entire Riverside Academy cafeteria fell silent instantly. 300 students froze in the middle of their conversations, plates suspended in midair, all eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. "Look what we have here," Derek announced, his voice echoing through the deathly silence, "the new girl with her pet collar."
"How cute."
His fingers tightened against the leather against Jasmine's skin, forcing her to tilt her head back. Jasmine Carter was only 17 and never imagined that her first day at the most elite private school in town would end with her being dragged around like a dog in the middle of the cafeteria. The handmade leather collar she wore, a traditional African piece that had belonged to her grandmother, was now a chain in the hands of the most feared bully in school.
"Let her go, Derek," Madison Phillips shouted, rising from the cheerleaders' table.
But her trembling voice revealed that even she, with all her popularity, feared confronting Derek Thompson, son of the owner of the largest construction company in the area and the undisputed king of Riverside Academy. Derek laughed, a cold sound that made several students cringe.
"Why would I do that? She clearly likes wearing a collar.
Maybe we should take her for a walk around the courtyard, too." His friends, Tyler Harrison and Blake Morrison, burst into cruel laughter, filming everything with their cell phones.
Are you ready for the twist that turned the tables?
What none of them knew was that Jasmine Carter wasn't just another scholarship student trying to fit into a world of privilege. She was the daughter of Michael Carter, a former Special Forces instructor who now ran a self-defense academy in the city center.
Since she was 8, Jasmine had trained in Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Thai boxing every day before school.
But at that moment, as she felt the pressure of the collar against her throat and heard the laughter echoing around her, Jasmine remained eerily calm. Her eyes showed no fear or panic. There was something different there, a dangerous serenity that only people who have faced much worse can display.
"You're going to let me go now," Jasmine said, her voice low, but clear enough to cut through the silence. "This is your only chance."
Derek tightened his grip on the collar, lifting it slightly off the ground.
"Or what? You're going to sue me? Your daddy's going to come here and complain?"
He leaned closer, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear, "People like you don't belong in places like this."
"You'd better learn that soon."
Then something unexpected happened. Instead of struggling or crying as Derek had expected, Jasmine smiled.
It wasn't a smile of submission or nervousness.
It was the smile of someone who had just received the confirmation she needed to justify what she was about to do. The students watched, mesmerized, as Jasmine remained strangely calm under the public humiliation. Some whispered among themselves, wondering why she didn't scream for help or try to escape. What they couldn't see was the cold calculation going on behind those seemingly resigned eyes. As Derek continued his show for the audience, holding her like a trophy of conquest, Jasmine mentally catalogued every angle, every point of vulnerability, every tactical mistake he was making. Years of training had taught her that patience was a more powerful weapon than brute force. "If this story of courage and resilience is touching your heart," whispered one student to her friend as she discreetly filmed, "don't forget to share it.
Stories like this need to be seen, on Black Voices."
She had no idea that she was documenting the beginning of something that would forever change the power dynamics at Riverside Academy. There in front of 300 shocked students as she felt the humiliation burn on her cheeks, Jasmine held a secret that Derek would soon discover. Some people break under pressure, others turn into diamonds, and he was about to find out exactly what kind of person he had chosen to humiliate.
Derek kept his grip on Jasmine's collar, savoring every second of her public humiliation.
"How about you bark for us?" he taunted, pulling her closer.
"I'm sure you know how to do that very well."
The cafeteria remained deathly silent. Some students recorded discreetly, others looked away in shame, but no one dared to intervene.
Derek Thompson was untouchable.
His father practically paid for half the school renovations, and everyone knew that confronting him meant academic trouble or even expulsion. "Derek, stop it," Madison whispered. But her voice lacked conviction. Even she, the daughter of a senator, knew there were limits to her power here. "Shut up, Madison," Derek snapped without even looking at her. This one needs to learn some basic rules of coexistence. He tugged harder on the leash, forcing Jasmine to take a wobbly step.
What Derek couldn't understand was why Jasmine didn't cry, beg, or humiliate herself as he expected.
Instead, she watched him with a disturbing intensity, as if memorizing every detail of his face, every word that came out of his mouth. Tyler Harrison, ever the loyal sidekick, approached with his cell phone.
Man, this is going to be epic on my Instagram.
New student learns the rules at Riverside.
He laughed as he adjusted the angle to better capture the humiliation.
That's when Jasmine spoke, her voice cutting through the air like a sharp blade.
You guys have no idea what you just did, do you?
Derek blinked, momentarily thrown off by her calm, almost amused tone.
What are you talking about, girl? I'm talking about consequences, Jasmine replied, a half smile playing on her lips.
The three of you just committed physical assault, recorded by at least 20 people. I'm sure your parents will love seeing this on the local news.
Tyler stopped filming immediately, the smile fading from his face.
Blake took a step back, suddenly nervous, but Derek just tightened his grip on the leash. You're bluffing, he growled.
No one's going to believe a scholarship student over me.
What Derek didn't know was that Jasmine Carter had grown up documenting every injustice she witnessed. Since she was 8, when she saw her father violently stopped by the police for looking suspicious while walking in his own neighborhood, she had learned that the only protection against prejudice was irrefutable evidence.
Her father, Michael Carter, wasn't just any former military man.
He had served 2 tours in Afghanistan as an interrogation and counterintelligence specialist, returning with a Combat Bravery Award.
But what had truly shaped Jasmine was the lesson he repeated every day. Daughter, in a world that wants to tear you down, your best weapon isn't your fists, it's your brain. You know what's interesting about recorded cases of racial bullying?
Jasmine continued, her voice remaining eerily calm.
They go viral really fast on social media.
And when they make it to the national news, everyone wants to know who the bullies are.
Imagine the headlines. Businessman's son attacks black student at elite school. Derek's face began to redden. Are you threatening me? I'm just explaining basic physics, Jasmine replied. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You chose the action. Now you're going to find out the reaction. That's when something unexpected happened. James Mitchell, an African-American senior who rarely got involved in conflicts, stood up from his desk.
That's enough, Derek. Derek turned to him, disbelief written all over his face.
Really, James? You're going to play the hero, too?
No, James replied, walking slowly toward them.
I'm going to be the witness. And as student council president, I'm going to make sure this gets to the principal's office today.
The cafeteria began to murmur. Other students rose, first a few, then more, until a small crowd surrounded Derek and his victim. For the first time in years, someone was publicly challenging the Thompson's authority at Riverside Academy. Derek looked around, realizing that control of the situation was slipping from his grasp. But instead of backing down, his arrogance drove him to escalate even further.
You guys want to see what happens when someone challenges my family? Tyler, call my dad now. Tyler hesitated. Derek, man, maybe this isn't the best idea.
Call my dad, Derek yelled, pulling Jasmine's leash so hard that she stumbled. I want to see how many of these heroes will keep up the act when half of you lose your scholarships. It was at that moment that Jasmine realized Derek had just made the mistake she had been waiting for. He had escalated the situation in front of dozens of witnesses, including the student council president, and was now directly threatening other students with financial retaliation.
As Tyler reluctantly dialed Derek's father, Jasmine closed her eyes for a second, mentally activating years of tactical training. Her father always said that the best soldiers aren't the ones who strike first, but the ones who allow the enemy to expose themselves completely before counterattacking. Each new humiliation only strengthened something inside her that her oppressors couldn't see, Madison thought, observing Jasmine's strange serenity amid the chaos.
A silent strength fueled by the very injustice they tried to impose on her. Tyler's phone rang and Derek smiled with that arrogant confidence that only the truly powerful can display. What those privileged boys didn't know was that every act of contempt was writing their own sentence of defeat.
And Jasmine Carter had a very, very long memory. Tyler Harrison finally got through. "Mr. Thompson, this is Tyler, Derek's friend. We have a situation here at school."
His voice trembled as he recounted the events, carefully omitting details that could incriminate his friend.
Derek smiled with satisfaction as he listened to Tyler on the phone.
"Tell him there's a scholarship student here trying to cause trouble, that she's threatening his family." He tightened his grip on Jasmine's leash, forcing her to stand on her tiptoes. What Derek didn't realize was that every word coming out of his mouth was being discreetly recorded by at least 6 different students. James Mitchell had silently signaled to other members of the council, and they were now methodically documenting every threat, every aggressive gesture, every piece of evidence of racial discrimination.
"My father is coming," Derek announced to the growing crowd. "You'll see what happens when someone messes with my family. This school, this cafeteria, all of this exists because we allow it." It was at that moment that Jasmine took her first strategic action. Instead of trying to physically free herself, she calmly took her own cell phone out of her pocket and held it up to Derek's face. "Smile for the camera," she said, her voice cutting like ice. "I want your future employers to see exactly who you really are." Derek hesitated for a split second, confused by her audacity, but quickly knocked the phone out of Jasmine's hand, sending it flying across the cafeteria floor. "No one films me without permission."
"Too late," said Madison Phillips, surprising everyone as she approached with her own phone filming.
"I already live streamed it on my Instagram. 10,000 followers and counting."
The popular cheerleader who had been watching from the sidelines now stood squarely against Derek.
Derek's expression changed.
For the first time, a shadow of uncertainty crossed his face.
"Madison, what are you doing? We're friends."
"Friends don't do this to other people," Madison replied, keeping the live stream going.
"And they definitely don't do it because of the color of someone's skin." As Derek processed this unexpected betrayal, Jasmine calmly watched the dynamic shift around her.
Years of tactical training with her father had taught her that the best victories were those where the enemy destroyed themselves.
Every overreaction from Derek only strengthened her position. James Mitchell approached with renewed determination. "Derek, let her go now. The principal is on his way, and you don't want him to see this." "Shut up, James," Derek exploded. "Your father works for mine. One word from me, and he's out of a job." It was a devastating strategic error. Derek had just publicly threatened another student's family in front of dozens of witnesses and live cameras. The murmurs in the cafeteria turned to open outrage. "Did you hear that?" one student whispered to another. "He just threatened James's father." Jasmine felt the moment coming. During the long months of training with her father, he had always repeated the same mantra. Patience is the difference between a fighter and a soldier. Fighters react. Soldiers control. She had allowed Derek to expose himself completely. Now he was physically holding her against her will, uttering recorded racial threats, intimidating other students, threatening the families of school employees, and doing it all in front of cameras, broadcasting live to thousands of people. "You know," Jasmine said, her voice maintaining the disturbing calm, "my father always told me that true strength isn't about dominating others, but about controlling yourself when others try to dominate you." Derek laughed derisively. "Your father? Let me guess, another ex-con who can't hold a job." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Tyler and Blake took a step back, realizing that Derek had crossed a line he shouldn't have. "My father," Jasmine replied, each word heavy with meaning, "is Michael Carter, former Army Special Forces instructor, decorated for bravery in combat. Currently owner of Carter Defense Academy." She paused, letting the information sink in. "Perhaps you should research him before continuing with your assumptions." Derek's confidence faltered visibly. The name Carter Defense Academy was well known in the area. They trained police officers, security guards, and military personnel. Several people from the local elite attended their self-defense classes.
But Derek was in too deep to back down now. With his pride wounded and his audience watching, he chose to double down. I don't care who your father is. I'm in charge here. That's when Richard Thompson Sr. burst into the cafeteria, followed by Principal Dr. Hawthorne and 2 school security guards.
The powerful businessman, accustomed to solving problems with money and influence, stopped abruptly when he saw the scene.
His son holding a black student by the collar, surrounded by cell phones recording and a live broadcast with thousands of views. Derek, his voice was low and dangerous, let that girl go now. For the first time, Derek seemed to realize the gravity of the situation, but it was too late to back down gracefully. The damage was done, documented, and being broadcast to the entire world.
Jasmine felt the pressure of the leash loosen slightly, but Derek still hadn't let go completely. She knew this was the crucial moment when people under pressure make desperate decisions.
This is my last warning, she said calmly, but loud enough for everyone to hear.
Take your hands off me voluntarily or I'll do it for you.
There was something in the way she said it, not a hysterical threat, but a cold factual statement that made several students instinctively step back. It was the voice of someone who knew exactly what she was capable of. Derek looked at his father, at the cameras, at the crowd of hostile faces around him. His unquestioned supremacy was crumbling in real time, and he had no idea how to stop the free fall. For a moment, when the powerful realize that their power has limits, the true nature of each person is revealed, Madison murmured to the live broadcast.
And sometimes what is revealed is uglier than anyone could have imagined.
Derek looked at his father, then at the cameras, and made the decision that would seal his fate forever. Instead of letting go of Jasmine and trying to minimize the damage, his wounded pride led him to double down. I don't care who's recording, he shouted, tightening the collar even further until Jasmine could barely breathe.
This school is mine. This town is mine, and no one is going to tell me what to do.
It was the fatal mistake Jasmine had been waiting for. In a sequence of movements that lasted less than 3 seconds, years of military training manifested with surgical precision. Jasmine grabbed Derek's wrist with both hands, applied a Krav Maga twist that forced him to release the collar instantly, and in one fluid motion used his own momentum to apply an arm lock that brought him to his knees on the cafeteria floor. The silence that followed was deafening. Derek was immobilized, his arm locked in a position that caused intense pain if he tried to move, but without causing permanent damage. Jasmine maintained complete control of the situation, her breathing still calm, as if she had just gotten up from her chair. That's assault, Derek yelled, trying to move and immediately stopping when the pain increased.
She attacked me. Everyone saw it.
Actually, said James Mitchell, holding his phone up high, we all saw you physically assault a student first, and it's all on tape. Richard Thompson Sr. was pale, realizing that the situation had turned into a public relations nightmare. Dr. Hawthorne approached cautiously, addressing Jasmine.
Miss Carter, can you let young Mr. Thompson go, please?
With all due respect, Principal, Jasmine replied, keeping Derek immobilized, he physically assaulted me in front of hundreds of witnesses. I'll let him go when I have assurances that he won't touch me again. Madison continued broadcasting live, her voice trembling with emotion.
Everyone, you are witnessing history being made right here.
A student just defended herself against a racial assault in real time. Tyler and Blake, who had seemed invincible alongside Derek moments before, now backed away in panic.
Man, I didn't do anything, Tyler muttered, trying to discreetly delete the videos from his phone. Too late, said a female voice behind them.
Sarah Chun, president of the student newspaper, smiled as she held up her laptop screen.
I've downloaded all your social media posts from the last few months.
Racist comments, jokes about knowing your place, photos mocking scholarship students.
It's all here.
Derek's face twisted in panic.
You can't use that. It's invasion of privacy.
Public content on social media is not private, Derek, Sarah replied. And as a future journalist, I know exactly what constitutes public interest.
Richard Thompson Sr. finally found his voice. Derek, shut up now.
He turned to Jasmine, his expression a mixture of shame and despair.
Miss Carter, on behalf of my family, I apologize for my son's unacceptable behavior.
His apologies are irrelevant, Jasmine replied coldly. What matters are the consequences, and they are already in motion.
As if summoned, a police officer entered the cafeteria.
We've received multiple reports of physical assault and racial intimidation.
Where are those involved?
Dr. Hawthorne reluctantly pointed to Derek, still immobilized on the floor. Officer Martinez, we have a delicate situation here. There's nothing delicate about racial assault caught on video, the officer replied, approaching.
Miss, you can let him go now.
I'll take it from here. Jasmine released Derek with the same controlled precision with which she had subdued him. He staggered backward, clutching his sore arm, his eyes showing real fear for the first time instead of arrogance.
Derek Thompson, Officer Martinez said, you are under arrest for aggravated assault and racial intimidation. My dad is going to sue this school, Derek yelled as he was handcuffed. You can't do this to me.
Richard Thompson Sr. hung his head defeated.
Derek, stop talking now.
Madison interrupted her live broadcast for a moment to announce, guys, we have 14,000 people watching live right now.
This story is going to be on the national news in an hour. Tyler tried one last desperate gambit.
Look guys, this is all a misunderstanding.
Derek isn't racist.
He was just nervous. Tyler, James Mitchell interrupted, you have 5 seconds to stop talking before I show everyone the screenshots from the WhatsApp groups where you plan to teach the new black scholarship girl a lesson.
Tyler paled and backed away, realizing there was no escape. As Derek was led away by the police, still protesting about political influence and legal threats, Dr. Hawthorne approached Jasmine. Miss Carter, would you like to talk in private?
I'd prefer our conversation be public, Headmaster, Jasmine replied.
Transparency seems to be something this school needs to learn.
The crowd of students cheered. For the first time in the history of Riverside Academy, someone had stood up to the system of privilege and won decisively. Richard Thompson Sr. approached Jasmine one last time. My company will make a substantial donation to a scholarship fund for minority students.
It's the least I can do. Jasmine stared back at him with that same unsettling calm.
Mr. Thompson, your money doesn't undo what your son did. It doesn't erase years of allowing this to happen.
But if you really want to make a difference, start by teaching other wealthy parents that raising racist children has consequences.
As the cafeteria gradually returned to normal, Madison ended her live broadcast. And that's how a 17-year-old student changed a school she thought would never change. What Derek Thompson didn't know when he woke up that morning was that his attempt to humiliate an inferior girl would become the very source of his own total destruction. Within hours, he had lost his position at the school, his reputation, his temporary freedom, and the respect of the entire community. There are moments in life when a universe offers us the perfect opportunity to show our true nature.
Sarah Chin wrote in her article that night, some reveal greatness in the face of adversity. Others reveal the rot that has always been there, waiting for the right moment to surface, on Black Voices. 6 months later, Jasmine Carter walked through the halls of Riverside Academy, a completely changed person. What had started as an attempt at racial humiliation had become the catalyst for changes no one could have predicted. Derek Thompson never set foot in Riverside Academy again, permanently expelled and with a criminal record for racial assault. His admissions to prestigious universities were rescinded one by one.
The viral video had become a case study on privilege and consequences used in diversity workshops across the country.
Tyler Harrison and Blake Morrison faced 90-day suspensions and were required to complete 300 hours of community service. Their parents, ashamed by the public exposure, enrolled them in other schools to start over, a euphemism for escaping the shame.
Richard Thompson Sr. fulfilled his reluctant promise, donating $2 million to student scholarships.
But the scandal cost him valuable government contracts when the mayor declared, "Companies that raise racist children do not represent our values." Jasmine blossomed in surprising ways.
She was elected student body president by a landslide, received a full scholarship to Harvard, and was invited to speak at national conferences on bullying and self-defense. Madison Phillips discovered her passion for investigative journalism after her broadcast went viral.
Jasmine taught me that using your platform to amplify other voices is more important than superficial popularity, on Black Voices. James Mitchell expanded the diversity program, implementing monthly workshops on bias and mentoring systems. Michael Carter's Self-Defense Academy saw a 400% increase in enrollment. Most surprising was the cultural shift at the school. The Jasmine effect became the expression used to describe the contagious courage to stand up to bullies. Students who had previously remained silent now organized and spoke out against injustice. At her graduation, Jasmine was chosen as valedictorian. A year ago, someone tried to reduce me to a stereotype through physical violence and racial prejudice. He thought he was showing me my place. In fact, he was showing me his place at the bottom of the moral ladder. The audience erupted in applause that lasted 3 minutes. I learned that true strength isn't about dominating others, but refusing to be dominated. It's not about using privilege to hurt, but using talent to heal. And it's definitely not about pushing others down, but lifting everyone up. When Jasmine stepped onto the Harvard campus, she carried with her not only academic achievements, but the certainty that she had transformed her own trajectory and that of hundreds of other students. Derek woke up that morning thinking he would teach a lesson about social hierarchy to a girl who didn't know her place. He ended up learning the most expensive lesson of his life. Trying to humiliate someone based on prejudice not only reveals who you really are, but ensures that the whole world sees it, too. The best revenge Jasmine discovered was not to destroy Derek Thompson. It was to build something so brilliant that his meanness seemed pathetic in comparison. She didn't just win that battle in the cafeteria. She changed the rules of the game forever. If this story of overcoming adversity touched your heart, subscribe to Black Voices and share in the comments. Have you ever faced prejudice and how did you react? Sometimes one person's courage can inspire the transformation of an entire community.